Hi everyone, this is Lovelin Johnson, and today we are going to be looking at the 16 undeniable laws of communication. And the law we are going to be talking about is the law of the change up. I want you to think about the last presentation you attended or you presented yourself. What made it forgettable or unforgettable? How did the message stand out? And what about the speaker made the message so impactful? The law of the change up says that sameness is the death of communication. There is this old saying, when the audience is sleeping, wake up the speaker, because it's the speaker's responsibility to keep the audience engaged and excited about the message that they are delivering. If the audience are going to be not awake and they are disinterested, it's not the audience's fault, it is the speaker's fault. So sameness is the death of communication. Often a message falls flat because there is no vocal variety. There is no movements, not movement for the sake of movement, but strategic movements. There is no pause so that the audience could take in the message. There's no interaction between the speaker and the audience. All that makes the message fall flat and the audience becomes disengaged because of it. Let's talk about the science behind engagement. Our brains are wired in such a way that it looks for novelty. It looks for change. It looks for something different. And that alerts our brain. And when things are same, it just gets into the autopilot mode. So your job as a speaker is to look and change things up so that your audience are always engaged. There are two major responsibilities for a speaker. First, they need to get the audience attention. Once they get it, they have to keep the audience entertained and engaged so that they could get more out of their message. And how could they do that? Through movement, through vocal variety, through pauses, through effective engagement. All that would make the message more impactful. Speaking is more like driving. If your car can go 300 kilometers per hour, you're not probably going to drive on the road. You're going to follow the road signs. And just because it's 100-kilometer road, it doesn't mean that you're going to go on 100-kilometer speed. There are other drivers. You adjust your driving based on their driving. So you're constantly alert. You're constantly making course corrections and adjusting your driving based on road conditions, based on the drivers who you are sharing the road with. And your speaking is very similar to that. You have to make course corrections based on your audience. If they feel bored, if they are drifting, you need to get their attention back. So it's your responsibility to keep an eye on your audience and make changes based on what you are seeing. The book talks about 4 change-up techniques. Number 1, strategic movement and facial expressions. Number 2, master your timing. Number 3, practice the pause. Number 4, create audience interaction. Number 1, strategic movement and facial expression. So when you are delivering a message, movement is good, but not over moving. Intentional movement is good. So what do I mean by over moving? There are people who would just walk and talk. That's not good. And there are people who would kind of rock. They would keep shifting their weight from one leg to another. And that's not good because you don't come across as confident and it's very distracting for your audience. However, if you can keep your lower body in a fixed position and you can use your hand gestures to enhance your speech. Another one is facial expression. Your words should match your facial expression. If I'm sharing something exciting, I should have a smile on my face and my eyes should be all lit up. And if I'm going to share about something painful, I should change my voice and my face should reflect that. You need to know what excitement is and your face should match your speech. And when you are sharing something sad, your face and your vocal variety should adjust to that. And that creates engagement. Your audience is leaning in because you are using vocal variety, you're using your facial expressions to enhance your speech. And if you want to move, you can move from one point. You could deliver the point on the left side of the room and then sort of move yourself at the center, deliver your second point, and you could move to the side to deliver your third point. You could move with a purpose, but don't keep moving for the sake of moving. Number 2, master your timing. Good timing means reading your room, reading the audience, and making adjustments. John talks about 3 principles, what he sees. He looks at different sections, and based on the audience engagement, he makes course corrections or looks for neutral faces, and based on how they are responding to the speech, makes adjustments. So you could follow one of these. You could either look at neutral faces or people who are showing engagement and make your adjustments based on that. What you say is also very important. You could tell them that they're going to learn something that is going to change their life, and that creates excitement and engagement. You could start with the story, do your teaching, and end the story, and that creates a full loop. You could mix and match all these principles so that the audience is with you, fully engaged and getting excited with you, and that way they gain more out of it. And last one is about what you show. You don't even have to say anything. The picture can do all the talking. You can have a picture there and literally let the picture do the talking, and you can move on to the next principle. You can mix and match all these to make your message effective. Number 3, practice the pause. I should admit that this is probably my most difficult thing to do. Giving pause is hard, but when you do it, it's super effective. The audience gets most out of it. And John tells us that we could do it in 4 ways. We could engage with a pause before we switch to the next point. So then that pause makes the audience to sink in about the old point before they move into the new point. You could engage the pause to emphasize a point. You can say, change up is so important so that your message sinks in. And you could give that pause so that the audience has time to take in the message that you just delivered. So you could add pause to emphasize a point or to give time for your audience to soak in the point that you delivered. You could also use the pause to bring wandering minds. By nature, our brain kind of wanders after a certain point, and suddenly you give a pause. Your audience is wondering, what happened? Why did he stop the speech? And they are now leaning in. So you could use the pause in effective ways. In that way, you keep the audience engaged throughout your speech. Number 4, create audience interaction. This is probably my favorite. Often when you go to conferences, you're listening to speeches back to back and your brain is tired. You get into this monotony of things. I think I've heard John speak in conferences for at least 8 times. And what he does, which is super effective, is he would just come and sort of break the ice. He would share his name and he would ask us to share our name. So he creates an interaction between the audience and the speaker. He also does interactions with our fellow members, with our neighbors, so to speak. He would ask us to tell the neighbor that they're going to learn something wonderful today, or he would just humor us by saying, you don't look very smart, but I promise you, you're going to get it. He would ask us to have these interactions. And what these interactions does is it creates engagement and helps us get out of the monotony of a conference where you're listening to speakers non-stop, and this creates engagement for us to make it effective. So what are some of the ways that you could read your audience? See if their phones are coming out. Are they having side conversations? Are they slouching and sort of disengaged? Do they look completely lost? All these tells you that your audience is not getting the message that you are delivering to them. And what makes it impactful? That the audience will tell too. They are leaning in, they're coming forward, they're taking notes, they're smiling, laughing, nodding, making eye contact. All that tells you that they are engaged and your message is resonating with them. What's the action plan? For me, I want to use pause effectively. I often talk a lot. It's because of my passion. But if I want my points to be resonated with the audience, I need to engage with effective pauses. Think about different change-up methods that you could use yourself. You could use movement with purpose. You could use timing to your advantage. And you could also use your vocal variety and facial expressions. In that way, your message is even more impactful. So the whole purpose of this law is to change things up. Sameness is the death of communication. If you want your audience to be awake, if you want your audience to get the most out of it, don't have a flat speech. Mix it up. Go up and down with your vocal variety. Bring some facial expressions. Bring movement. And most effectively, bring pause. And that would make your message impactful. I hope you found this lesson helpful. Next week, we are going to be looking at the law of adding value. I hope to see you there.